Up next on Channel 5 is the news with Stormy Lakes and Sunny In Your Face. They will be taking a look at the Gilded Age in Chicago, which is a period defined by the new innovation and technology, a change in the standard of living, the rise of big business, and the influx of immigrants. Stay tuned. Hi, my name is Stormy Lakes.
And I'm Sunny In Your Face.
And you're watching Channel 5 News. Today we will be taking a trip to the Gilded Age right in our very own Chi-Town.
To the time machine.
Wow, look at all this old school technology.
During this period, Alexander Graham Bell designed the first phone.
I personally prefer my iPhone to that piece of junk.
That's my phone.
Oh, well, Edison created the light bulb, the phonograph, and the dictaphone, all of which we're using in the studio right now.
This innovation and technology increased the standard of living in the economy because it opened up jobs to create these new innovations.
Speaking of, new factories were created to produce new goods because of an abundance of natural resources.
This opened up many new jobs, which caused an influx in immigrants hoping to find work.
This all resulted in the rise of big business. For example, George Pullman developed a new line of luxury train cars. At first, he rewarded his workers by creating a utopian society for them. But that turned sour when he only allowed them to lease their homes. And then he cut their income 30%. But he kept the rents at a very high rate. This, of course, resulted in them to go on strike because Pullman had way too much power over his workers.
And Marshall Field, who raised a big business and lured women into spending their days and their money there by making shopping convenient and luxurious, and by investing in a line of the streetcars and having the cars make a stop right in front of his store so that the women could go directly to the store. While this made Marshall Field look good, his employees knew him as a man to be feared.
But how did they get away with this, you ask? Well, people were desperate for work, so they could be paid a small amount for a lot of work. Also, natural resources at this time were abundant and dirt cheap.
They turned this around to make great profits by running the workers dry, providing dangerous working conditions, and using sales techniques such as advertising.
Let's hit the streets and see what the public thinks about this. Here we are on the streets of Chi-Town with a business person. What do you think about the rise of big business?
I have worked hard to get where I am, and I will not let anyone get in my way or knock me down. Paying my workers low wages is in the best interest of the whole company. The maximum profits come from minimum wages.
That's great. And here we are with a worker from one of those big businesses. What do you think about the rise of big business?
Well, at first I liked it because there was an opening of jobs and resources, but as time went on, working conditions depleted and wages were lowered. Big business needs to be limited because the economy will drop with the influx of small, low-wage jobs meant for unskilled workers. Also, many entrepreneurs end up being robber barons and use sneaky business practices like monopolies and horizontal and vertical integration.
It's okay. Back to you in the studio. Right now we're going to our temporary studio right outside of Sweatshop, so it might be a little noisy.
Let's go!
Here we are, back in the studio.
Well, wasn't that interesting? Workers later retaliated to this unfair business practice by forming unions.
At first, the unions were determined to simply use peaceful collective bargaining or negotiating as a group for higher wages and better working conditions. But later, these unions turned to strikes.
They formed groups such as the Knights of Labor, a group that encouraged boycotts to achieve an 8-hour workday, worker-owned factories, abolition of child labor, equal pay for men and women, and safety codes in the workplace.
The American Federation of Labor was a more peaceful group. It was a loose organization of skilled workers who paid high dues in order to help other skilled workers. They mediated disputes between the worker and management and pushed for closed shops.
Although these groups did help the unfair treatment in sweatshops, the workers were still not happy with the big business, so they often turned to strikes and boycotts.
For example, there was a great railroad strike of 1877, where after Pennsylvania slashed wages and for the B&O Railroad reduced work week, there was a nationwide strike where there was 75,000 miles of track not moving. so breweries, foundries, and mills were forced to shop. This resulted in raised wages, shorter hours, and the military jailed the leaders of the strike.
But if working conditions were so bad, why did they stay in the city? Stay tuned and we'll find out tomorrow.
And remember, stay classy, Chicago. And we're back with Channel 5 News. If conditions for the workers were so bad, why did they stay in the city?
Well, the city offered certain luxuries that rural America did not have.
People in cities enjoyed shopping, sports, newspapers, and magazines, which created a new American culture that included mass consumerism.
More products were available than ever before and prices were extremely low, leading to conspicuous consumerism.
This basically meant that since they wanted the product and had the money for them, they had to have them. This involved all types of people. Mothers, children, fathers, everyone was becoming a consumer.
This basically started the use of advertisements, which we mentioned yesterday. Rowland Macy opened the first department store in New York City. We even had a Macy's in Chicago. Macy used techniques such as widespread advertising, developing varieties of goods at a high quality with a fair price.
This really created a division between classes because the people who had enough money to buy these luxuries showed it with the brand names they wore and the more expensive products that they bought.
By having more purchasing power, consumers rushed to modernize their homes, clothes, anything really. This was known as mass culture.
During this period, the arts and literature was also changed. Newspapers were mass-produced and yellow journalism was spread.
Yellow journalism is when controversy is stirred through writing. Novelists started taking a critical look on society.
Many novels exposed deceitful business practices. For example, Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle, which is a book following a worker in the meat shop who witnesses disgusting processing of the meats.
Education also increased during this time. Schools were created to teach immigrant children how to speak English.
After working long and hard days, people who had the time and money were rewarded in the cities by having the opportunity to attend music halls, clubs, sports venues, and even amusement parks. In 1893, there was even the World's Columbian Exposition that came to Chicago. It was a mile long and much like a circus.
There were acts such as a strongman, a man who rode a bicycle across a 264-foot-long tightrope in the sky, and the Brothers Houdini. But this event was created to showcase new technology, and it gave consumers a glimpse into the future, into what future technologies would be like.
During the Gilded Age, spectator sports rose up quickly. Sports such as baseball, football, and horseback were widely watched as a pastime for Americans.
Well, that's all we have for today for you. And remember, stay classy, Chicago. Welcome back to Channel 5 News.
Immigrants who had heard of America began to flock to America. They wanted the freedoms that America had to offer.
However, these immigrants would work longer hours for less pay, which caused the loss of jobs for many workers. This angered many people and caused them to urge government representatives to put a restriction on immigration.
All the immigrants representing many different countries helped to create a melting pot effect in America, meaning that they brought the parts of their own cultures to America, bringing many new foods, religions, and lifestyles to America.
Many of the immigrants had a hard time changing what they knew to fit into American society. To help them, there were schools available to assist them in learning English.
Thank you for listening to Channel 5 News.
And remember, stay classy, Chicago.